San Francisco, you have an emergence of this particular type of urban waterfront park, the urban beach, which is the pop-up beach that works only in July and August. So this is Paris, the capital of France. It has 2.5 million inhabitants, about the number of people that appear on the Copacabana beach on important occasions. And you see that through Paris, there's this huge river, the Seine, that flows through Paris, and it is kind of the main water artery. And the attempts to make an urban park along the Seine have been focused recently on making a Seine urban beach. So in July and August, you have the beaches of Paris, or Paris-plages, which were Paris-plages, which were invented or introduced by the socialist government in 2002. And where only in the summer season, you have artificial beaches along the Seine. So when the heat is sweltering in the city, where it's completely impossible to breathe, when tourists are avoiding the city because it's too hot, banks of the Seine get closed off. And along the Seine in summer months, sun umbrellas and cool lawns and deck chairs and palm trees and huge surfaces of sand are installed temporarily so that people can enjoy various cultural and sports activities. And they do swim in the Seine, which is something that you cannot do in Hudson River, for example. So along the Seine in Paris-Plage, you have a variety of different content. And it's important that there's also temporary infrastructure. So you have showers, toilets, you have proximity to public transportation, which is, of course, very important for this. And you have seating areas, dining areas, water fountains. And I found it very interesting that on this map, you have marked places where you can buy ice cream on the official map. This is very important for the French. Food, again. Around the canal, plenty of activities are offered, such as canoeing, a zip line, table footballs, and there are also, for example, off-site libraries with comic book loans. And apart from the Seine, this artificial lake in Paris, Bassin de la Villette, is equipped to be a temporary urban beach in the summer where these floating swimming pools are installed. So this is the Bassin la Villette plan, where you again see the location of different amenities and of these pools. The same idea of pop-up beaches is now very popular in Europe and has been popular for the last 20 years. And this idea of an urban beach like Coney Island or the Copacabana is kind of now entering the city. For some reason, people want to have the replica of this seaside experience, not on the periphery of the city, but in the middle of urban hustle and bustle. So these baths in Brussels involve transporting I think 600 cubic meters of fine sand onto the streets of Brussels, and the transportation in these potted palm trees, their strawwood huts, their games and activities, and of course this exists only in July and August. The last pop-up park that I want to show is the Spruce Street Harbor Park in Philadelphia, which is, of course, much smaller than the entire Paris-Plage enterprise or even the Brussels baths. There's this little former dock on the Delaware River here on the plan, where this Spruce Street Harbor Park in July and August pops up as an urban waterfront park and transforms this industrial dock into a place of pleasure and leisure. So in the Spruce Street Harbor Park, you have a series of floating barges, complete with lily pad water gardens, a pop-up restaurant and bar, and you have different parts of this park. You have the hammock lounge. Can you see this? Okay, so you have an urban beach. You have a boardwalk with restaurants and places where you can buy beer. You have a seating area, you have fire pits, and you have this lily pad garden, which is a floating lily pad garden, which is part of the park. And next to the lily pad garden, you have the hammock. You have a net lounge where people can lie down in these nets above water. Let me show you pictures of this. So in the existing park, which extends into this pop-up waterfront park, you have hammocks where people can lie about. Then you have this lily pads park where you have potted native flora and a replica of a natural wetland. And basically, we have several artificial islands, which are comprised of recycled plastic mattresses, which are planted with native vegetation. Again, some potted plants floating in the water, which are part of this park. In the park, for example, you have 7 trees, so-called trees, that are designed and fabricated by local artists, which emit a cloud of mist as visitors stroll along the park. And these pipe-fitted cooling devices are also outfitted with LED lights, which aid the wayfinding on the urban beach. Then you have shipping containers, which are retrofitted for local restaurants, local food trucks and beverage services. And you have a particular use of light in this park, which is used night and day to animate the public space. So it is an urban. So when you think of an urban waterfront, it's not only important to think about what it looks during the day, but also how it transforms during the 24 hours of its cycle. For me, the very interesting element of this park are those nets where you can lie above water. This is a very nice detail, in addition to these LED lights that transform the space into a party space during the night. I will finish this presentation, or move towards the end of this presentation, with the best urban front of all times, and that's the urban waterfront in the city where I live, Vancouver, Canada. Vancouver is located on the west side of Canada, on the Pacific Ocean, and you can see the location of the map. And it's nested between mountains, which include, for example, Whistler, the famous ski resort, and the ocean. And this particular siting makes the ocean extremely important for city life. On the map of the city, which is here to the left, you see that the entire city of Vancouver is surrounded by beaches here and by one huge waterfront park. So Vancouver does not really have a park per se, but it has a huge planning intervention that connects all the entire city together. It's the Seaside Greenway. And here on this picture, you can see this green line and that is actually all one huge park. The entire coast of Vancouver is connected with one parkway, with one greenway, where you can walk or bike or roller skate around the periphery of the entire city. So it's not about making small parks or small interventions only, although these are great designs, but about having this megalomaniac project for uniting the entire landscape of the city. And here you can see that this path starts on one side of the city. This here. Do you see my cursor? Okay, so this here is the Vancouver downtown, the most densely populated area in Canada. This here is the largest urban park in Canada, Stanley Park. So you start from this side of the urban downtown, go around this huge park, which is like the central park of Vancouver, and continue biking or walking or cycling all along the periphery of the city. Sorry. And you can go to English Bay Beach, Kitsilano Beach, Jericho Beach. It is all either the urban waterfront or the huge beaches that this huge walkways connected. So the main part of this walkway is the walkway around the Stanley Park. Stanley Park is not a creation of a landscape architect, but rather an evolution of a forest and an urban space over many years. It was an indigenous space originally, very important in indigenous sacred culture. And it was not landscape, but it remains as a densely forested area as it was in the 1800s when the European colonists came to this area. It has about 500,000 trees, and some are as tall as 70, 80 meters. That's around 250 feet. And many of these trees are 100, 200 years old. So around Stanley Park, you have this seawall, a seawall that's preventing the erosion of the park, but also which is a path for cyclists on one side and pedestrians on the other side that goes around the park. And it was built in 1917, 100 years ago, and which took several decades to complete, from 1917 to 1971. So there's this huge stone wall constructed around the perimeter, but which transformed in the meantime into a pedestrian, bicycle, and rollerblading pathway. And the entire Greenway in Vancouver is imagined as an extension of this park seawall onto the entire city. So during the history of the seawall and the history of the Greenway, there has been a constant and protracted conflict between pedestrians and cyclists. So strolling pedestrians take issue with cyclists speeding by. Cyclists feel that they have a right to cycle on the seawall. And there has been so much in negotiation with the Vancouver Police Department, with environmentalists. And finally, now you have a situation in which cyclists can go only in one direction around the park, and pedestrians have their own zone. So I will lead you through what this huge 30-kilometer, how many miles is 30 kilometers? I think maybe 14 miles? No, 20 miles. Okay, so this 20-mile long park starts in the city environment, in this posh neighborhood of Cole Harbor with yacht clubs, fancy restaurants, etc. It continues around Stanley Park. it enters this inlet here, which is densely populated. You have the urban downtown on one side and the neighborhood of Falls Creek on the other. And then the entire park goes through the urban core to come out on the other side from which you can observe the city. The park here continues through Kitsilano Beach, which is another urban park designed to accommodate people during the summer with its own heated artificial pool. And the entire park ends in the so-called Jericho Beach Park, which is a natural reserve. So the entire point with the Greenway is that by going down this one path, that you can experience the entire city. So this is again like Burle Marx intervention, not a design for a small park or for a small intervention on the waterfront, but for something that will connect all the types of urban environments into one whole. So when you go down the Greenway, you see the posh part of the city, the biggest park, 3 or 4 beaches. You have a point from which you can see the city. You have a park of the Greenway, which is in the middle of the hustling and bustling city. And basically, if one wants to get to know Vancouver, one goes along this path and sees everything, because Vancouver is a thin strip of land between mountains and the ocean. So what I've been talking about here are 2 types of waterfront parks, which might not be something that you usually think of as a waterfront park. So I'm proposing this as a provocation or as a proposal for alternative ways of thinking about parks. One is that you don't have to think about a waterfront park as something that exists all around the course of the year. As something that that does not change. You can think of the park as something that changes throughout the seasons. Some content pops up, some content disappears. I also wanted to drive the point home that you have to think about the park as something that is active not only during the day, but perhaps during the night and during the 24-hour cycle. So you have to think about the park within the context of the change of seasons. You have to think about the park in the context of how it is used in different parts of day. And the second kind of urban park intervention that I wanted to show are these parks that are not parks in the traditional sense, but arteries or avenues that connect different parts of cities and as such constitute the identity of some of the biggest metropolises in the world. So this has not been long, but I hope there have been interesting precedents that you'll be able to use in the class. You've been exposed to Pier 4, you've been exposed to, I guess, different kinds of urban interventions on a small scale, but I also wanted you to think about parks in this larger context.